Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. Could somebody move to approve the agenda 1.02?
Move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. In the event of an emergency and we need to evacuate the building this evening, we can go out through exit 6. We could also go out through the main library exit, go to the left or the right, and please move away from the building as far as possible. Would you please join me for the pledge this evening? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the event that the community would like to reach out to the board, you can reach us at clerk@fulton.cnyric.org. We're going to move into public forum. We have 2 speakers this evening. Mr. John Johnson. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, my name is John Johnson, and I'm here to discuss the 4th Street schools. I discussed the last board meeting with you guys. From what I understand, it's full steam ahead with the project plans that you guys have in place. With great disappointment that you guys failed to reconsider that move and find an alternate building for that. I'd like you or somebody on this board to give Colton Johnson, my son, an explanation why storage space and office space is more important than its education.
It is not about storage and office space per se, but I mean, we are working very closely with the City BOCES team. We are still working with them, and
so from what I understand, City BOCES would be more than willing to buy that building to maintain that program. I've had lots of conversations with lots of people. I come prepared, right?
That's not our understanding, but thank you for sharing.
Hello. Yes, that isn't anything that we have heard.
So I see, this is my point. Decisions are made in this room without reaching out outside of the district to find other solutions to the problem that you have. We're displacing kids, just like Colton here, who is going to be regressed significantly. And I think that he deserves an explanation why you guys feel that that's appropriate. And it is 100% about storage space. It is 100% about office space.
Sorry.
Were the kids thought of first?
Always.
To be clear, it's been over 2 years that this has been, it's not something that was decided lightly, but also as us, as board members, we're not really supposed to comment during this period. We do appreciate you coming in and sharing and coming up and telling us what you think, because that can only make us better and make informed decisions in the future.
I do appreciate that comment, and I really wish that this board would reach out to Chris Todd, Superintendent of City BOCES, to discuss City BOCES purchasing that building for the 4th Street program to stay there.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Frank Cecilia? Hello, Frank.
Evening. I left you guys alone for almost 2.5 months. Brenda, I said 3 months, but Brenda said it's only been 2.5. But during that time, the final decisions that were being made, money put aside, because all this money that it's going to cost to move everything, and it's either going to be reimbursed, but that's still taxpayer money. We still have to look at what it's going to do and how it's going to affect these students that you're moving. It's been their home. When you move, I know I transport these students, and I know how much it puts them back, and it's not good. They lose, not just that they've lost their home, but they lose maybe up to a year getting used to where they're going now. And that's not right. And it's not too late to stop what you're doing. And I think that you guys have to take a strong, hard look at the students that it's going to affect. It's not, it's not about the teachers, and it's not about the money, because the money is all taxpayer money. It's a fact that you guys are gonna make this move, and this student is just one. Okay? Now, the answer probably is going to be that we're going to be getting ready for Micron. And I will guarantee you, somebody in here is gonna say that at some point in time. And it's gonna be 20 years before Micron is going to affect us as far as our population goes. But we have to think of these students. He's only one. Think of all of them. They would fill this room, and they would ask you questions. Their parents would, because they still would not understand. All they know is that they're being moved out of their home. You guys take a chance, take a look at it, say, okay, we're not going to do this move. That's all I have to say about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. We are going to move into a executive session. If I can have someone move it, we have a member from the board who would like to move into executive session for a personal matter.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. We will return shortly. Thank you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for waiting for us this evening. We are going to move on to action 1.06, approve the July 23rd regular minutes.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Just a couple things to look at through the present report. We have a few board meetings coming up. Our regular board meetings, Health and Safety and the Policy Committee are back in session. There was one thing I wanted to point out. I don't know if you guys saw this in your email, but NISBA is offering another training opportunity. That training opportunity is to build a stronger relationship with your superintendent. It is virtual. It is Tuesday, September 17th, if anyone is interested in that. You will need to register. We would have to register probably through Mrs. Perry. And if anyone wants to do that, please let us know. I want to ask Mr. DeLorme to please share your, if you're ready, to share your leadership and education presentation.
Yeah. Went to the small cities conference, and they just made a note that the districts are not receiving full funding. They haven't for 2 decades. They're trying to push for that, because it's still resulting in us with a very, very big gap, learning gap, money gap that we have to make up. Yep. So I attended the AI. Brenda gave a presentation on that. But one thing I did really take from that is that we're moving from the IT world to the AI world. And he pointed out that it only took 5 days for artificial intelligence to catch on, to get 1 million people, 1 million users, where it took Google 41 months. So AI is coming at us strong. 97,000 jobs will disappear by 2025 in all sectors. And he did make a point that with AI, we need to start teaching in the 21st century and not the 20th. So, I attended the Board Schools, and let's see, where's that? I attended one session that I really liked, and it was student voices.
There were students on the panel for that one, right?
Yeah, it was all student. It was a panel led by students. Okay. We should provide the student board member with a handbook. They also have a student rep that attends the agenda, and they have a student report. So as we give our reports here, we should perhaps consider
Go back to giving the reports to them.
have the agenda, the student. They also have training for their students, and they have a bilingual button that kids who are bilingual in school wear, so that anyone who doesn't speak English knows who they can talk to if they need support or direction. So again, just some ideas I took from that, and I thought it was a money well spent to go to that conference, and those are the things I brought back.
Well, thank you.
I did also bring back some there's vendors at these conferences, and I brought back what I thought Jeff and Renee would need and what Don would need in purchasing it.
For the AI piece, or?
No, just all in general, because they were there for architects, construction guys. So all aspects, right down to individual units, AC units, or so.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. DeLorme. The next thing on our list is to discuss again the moving of the executive session to change that start time. Going to open it up to my colleagues to go ahead and throw out some pros and cons. I know last meeting we talked about possibly moving it to 5:30, but also keeping in mind that we need to be back out here around 6, so it does open up that opportunity that we would be going back into executive session at the end of our meetings. Mrs. Perry did reach out to our lawyers, and you got a template that you could use to, when we know for sure we would be having an executive session, that you could let the public know so they know we would be starting the meeting at 5:30, but that would only be for the executive session part. Anything that you wanted to add that I might have missed in that aspect? All right, so I'm going to throw it out to my colleagues, and you guys let me know what you want to do, and we'll go from there. Lori, any thoughts?
I'm good with 5:30. No, I like it earlier. I would prefer as early as we could have it, but I understand.
Okay. I do know there are some districts around that do start at 4, but, you know,
Yes.
it's probably not an option for us. Mrs. Ava?
I guess my question is why? Like why we changed our meetings from 6:30 to 6, and now we want to change our executive session to earlier also. So these are just changes, I'm just wondering why.
I think the big thing was for, like an instance like we just had, that those would be something that we would always have in place, just in case there were anything to discuss. But I'm good with either. If we're going to switch to this model, I just think our communications has to be on key. Our preparation, getting everything disseminated out to the public, and making sure if we do set that 6 o'clock, that we are staying true to that if it's going to go over. So I'm not necessarily against it, but I also, like Jen said, I don't want to move it just for the sake of moving it.
Okay, Mr. DeJour?
I think that having it at 5:30 will keep things on point rather than going off topic, discussing other things. We know we have a time limit. It'll keep it concise. We won't have marathon executive sessions by staying at night and maybe possibly being here at midnight. Should we not finish the executive session in that half hour that we have, then we can always go into a second one if necessary later on. So I'm for it.
Okay. Mrs. Hutchinson?
I'm also for it. I think exactly, reasons that we have today. I know over the last year, we've had a lot of questions about things on the agenda that would be great to have further discussions on. Also, I tried to remember our administrators, and they have long days, and I'm sure would like to get home to their families as well. So I am for it as well.
Mr. Crandall?
I'm neither for nor against, but I'm more for it. Years ago, we used to do it that way.
Did it before the meeting?
Used to do it before. And it was, you knew you had a time limit, but the only problem we used to have was we'd be late to start. If our board meetings would start at 6, it might be 5, 10 after 6, or that we would start. Because we were deep in discussion.
Yes, and I do believe the template says approximately 6.
Right, but here's what my question is. So, for example, tonight we knew we wanted to have executive session. So technically you're starting the meeting at 5:30. Is that right?
We would be starting on
Because you open the meeting, then you go to executive session. So technically now we're 5:30. But there's going to be, if I'm understanding this the right way, there's going to be exceptions to that where we don't need it. So then are we going to start the meeting at 6 o'clock?
From my understanding, it was the meeting would always start at 6. It's just we would come in. We could open the meeting just for the executive session point. If we are done, we are sitting here for maybe 20 minutes until 6 o'clock because we cannot move into our public meeting until
Correct.
6 p.m.
Correct. Okay.
So if we didn't need the executive session, we need to make sure the public knew that there was no executive session prior to the 6 PM start.
Okay,
Make sense?
it does.
Okay.
So what do we end up telling the public then, Gene, that our
So
meeting
basically what
starts
it's
for
gonna
executive
say,
session at 5:30 and then 6 o'clock is public forum, or how would we phrase that?
so it's gonna say, take notice that a meeting of the Board of Education of the Fulton City School District will be held on whatever date, where, beginning at 5:30. At that time, it's anticipated that the board will make a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of whatever you're gonna be talking about.
Till no later than 6.
Approximately 6.
Approximately 6. We have to stick to that because we have community members that show up that are waiting for us. So that would open up the possibility of going back into executive session. There's that. And then my only other question is, can everybody be here by 5:30? Because if we can't all be here by 5:30, that's probably not going to work.
I wasn't, I asked why, but I wasn't completely done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Crane. I'm just kind of okay. Up the tone.
Right, so why, I liked the way it happened today because we were able to, I could make a more informative decision based on what we have in our agenda tonight. And I like the before, for when we need it. I am not opposed to doing it before at all. I'm not able to be here all the time at 5:30 because of work. When I took this position, it was 6:30, and then we moved it to 6. So I am unable to make that change on a consistent basis for 5:30. Why we are moving it, I understand why now because of times like tonight, and I can appreciate that and I agree with that. But the time of 5:30 for me would not work if we still had the time of 6:30 and we would move into executive session at 6. I can say, yes, I can be here on a consistent basis, 100%. But that 5:30 time, I cannot, I just can't be here all the time.
So Jen?
Yes.
Are you saying it'd work like if we did the 6 instead of the 5:30 for
Yes.
executive and then started the meeting at 6:30 like before?
Yes. Yep.
So I would say if you can't make it, then I'd say we'd either have to do it like that or not do it, just because, we can't not have you here. So I don't know what everyone else thinks if we did a 6 and 6:30, because we want it first, not necessarily to go earlier, because those are two different things.
So if that is something we wanted to do, we then need to go back and vote on that next because we voted on the resolution to move it to 6 for the start of the meeting. So we would be moving it back to 6:30. So with hearing everybody's side, I mean, in my opinion, if we all can't be here, that's kind of a problem. We all kind of need to be at that executive session. So I'm not against starting early, but I need to make sure that everybody can be here too. So do you guys want to move the meeting time back to 6:30, or do you guys still want us to keep the meeting at 6 and
Can we move it all in one motion, that we would move it back to 6:30 and have executive at 6, or we have to have two separate?
well, we're not voting on the executive session. We can make that happen.
I'm just saying that for the resolution, I guess, not necessarily voting on it, but could we change it all in one thing, or do we have to move it back and then change the second piece?
That's a really good question, Mrs. Berry.
There, one more time.
So right now, we did a resolution, Gene, to move it from 6:30 to 6.
Correct.
But if we want to do it, because Jen won't be able to make it for 5:30, we would move the meeting back to 6:30 and then make the executive session the 6 o'clock time. So
Okay.
6 to 6:30 would be the executive, and then we would enter the meeting.
Here's the problem with, well, it's not a problem, but it's something to think about.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna move the meeting back to 6:30, and you're gonna meet at 6 o'clock, you may be 5 minutes. Then you're gonna sit here for 25 minutes, which I'm happy to sit with you people all day long, but I'm just getting it out there. There's a lot of nooks and crannies to the whole thing. I like the way that it happened tonight. Is that gonna happen, I think that's a great way to go. When you need it, you need it. And sometimes what's gonna happen is, we may be in a situation where we don't know until Tuesday morning that we need, so we can change it the way we need to change it. Okay.
But we have to give the public enough.
Well, we have to solidify what time the meetings, that's the big thing.
All right,
That's what they
so,
need to know.
all right, so do I still have the 4 people, 4 or 5 that want to do before the meeting?
I'm still before the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Tim still, and Laura still before?
Yeah, well, I'm before, but I just can't be.
Right,
there.
I'm talking about for like, it would have, you know, without us changing the time back up to 6:30, so I'm just trying to get a feel for where everybody's
Oh,
at.
but did you just say that?
I did,
If
I
one
did.
person can't make it. then
That's what I
that-
said, so that's looking like 3 that would, so can we move it to make a resolution to go back to a meeting at 6:30 and start our executive session at 6? Are you guys
Does that
comfortable
work
with
with you,
that?
Jen?
If we start
At 6?
at 6,
Yes,
Executive.
and I want to know that that works for everybody, because I feel like we all need to kind of be here at 6. So, I mean, just throw another, or do you want to leave it the way it is now and just keep our meeting at 6 and use the executive session in the beginning if we need it? Otherwise, use it at the end.
I'm good with leaving it like it is and do it tonight as if needed, but I'll be okay. The 6 o'clock time does not impair me.
Okay?
I'm okay with the 6 o'clock. I like the idea of starting it early.
6
and
o'clock start
6
time?
Yes.
For the meeting,
For the executive
for
session.
the executive session.
Yeah, because I do agree that Jen should be here, you know, each and every time.
So, 6 o'clock start time, or just using, I'm just trying to get the numbers here, because the number, I mean, either way we go, it looks like we have 4 who want to start executive session first, but we have to agree on a time where we're starting executive session. 5:30 does not work for everybody, so that doesn't, I mean, in my opinion, that doesn't, I mean, not for what it's worth, I feel like we all should be there when it comes to executive session stuff. So, okay, leave it as is for now, talk about it next week, or are we making the resolution, leave it
You can
as?
leave it as it is. We'll talk about it next week.
Okay, we will talk about this again next meeting, Mrs. Perry. All right. Last thing under the president's report is our school readiness. It is almost that time. I can't believe it. I know I had been in a couple of buildings this summer and they are working very hard. I know that also in my neighborhood, there was a building that had been with and without power on and off for a while, so it was very weird to see, you know, the sign not working one day, working one day, hearing that teachers can get into one part of the building, another. So I know that there's a lot of work going on in our buildings, around summer school, of course.
Correct.
So our readiness walkthroughs will be August 28th at 4 o'clock. We are heading Lanigan, Granby, Volney, 4th Street to start at Lanigan. And Thursday the 29th at 4 o'clock, Fairgrave Junior High and GRB, we will be meeting at Fairgrave. Just keep that on your radar, pop that on your
And I'll send the
calendar.
invites out for that. I was waiting to confirm the time.
Okay,
So
yep.
everybody
I
get a
spoke,
Google invite.
I spoke with Mr. Palvino last week, and he had mentioned that the 4 o'clock time was to help with our custodials and our principal staff, who sometimes wait for us very late to get through. Because let's face it, we like what we see, and we get talking, and we're always off and running a little bit late, and some of our principals and custodial staff aren't getting out at a decent time. So if that's still good, Mr. Polvino had thrown that out there. Okay, so we'll be awaiting your invitation, Mrs. Perry. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Thank you, Dr. Lisi, for stepping in for Mr. Palvino this evening.
My pleasure. All right, we're going to start tonight, and thank you, Mrs. Applebaum. We're going to start tonight with Mike James from King & Kang. Mike's going to be talking to us about our 5-year capital facilities plan. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I really want to talk about the culmination of the building conditions survey and the long-range plan that I've mentioned, I think, the last 2 or 3 times that I've been here. And I brought a copy of it with me tonight. This happens to be the building conditions survey. This all of these documents were uploaded to the state, I think, in March, and turned over to the district, and we'll turn over this hard copy as well. But I wanted to discuss the executive summary in particular. So the building condition survey is the format is developed by SED, and we follow that format. But as I mentioned, it's imperfect, and there are a lot of scope items or project-related work that the district might want to undertake that don't fit very well into their format. So King and the project team provide an enhanced long-range plan in BCS, where we create an Excel spreadsheet for each building. So I have this document, and I think we're maybe 18, 20 pages, where we take all of the content from the building condition survey. We load it into the Excel sheet. We also pick up anything that might not fit into the BCS. And this document is broken down by building. It has priorities, high, low, and medium. It has costs associated with it. In the format you may recognize, because this is the same type of document we've used to move into capital projects. So it's just an aid to say, you know, at fair grade, what do we want to accomplish? And then as the work progresses, we'll strike things from this document, or we'll learn of new items, and we'll add it. So this is kind of a live document. Out of this summary is this executive summary document. This is a form that needs to be submitted to SED with every project, whether it's a large capital project or even a small $100,000 outlay. And the executive summary touches on each building, how the report was established, and then gives the highest priorities in each facility. And this has always been part of the process. But in the last few years, SED has been looking to this as part of our submissions and saying, is the work you're telling us you want to do noted in your executive summary? Which in the past, they really didn't do that, but it's a good checks and balances, and it really forces the districts throughout the state to think about what they've said are their priorities. If you have, say, no handicap accessibility in a building, you want to put a turf field in, SED may say, wait a minute, you told us this was your priority, but I don't see it in your project. So we know how that process works, and we're modifying the executive summary as we go. SED says even on their website, they recommend the board review this annually and make adjustments. So the project team will do that as we move forward. As you complete work or you consider new work, we'll update things. So if you have not received a copy of this yet, I've sent a digital copy to Mrs. Perry. The idea that now you understand the purpose, you can review it over the next month or so, and maybe at your next meeting, I would recommend that the board have a resolution adopting the executive summary. And again, if there's things, if you have questions, you can reach through Gene or Brian, and if things need to be modified, we'd be happy to do that for you.
Quick question.
Absolutely.
Is the executive summary the combination of the high, medium, low things we want to work on and a 5-year plan?
No, good question. It would be reams of paper. It's really just the high priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as things move into high priorities and things fall off, again, we'll make those adjustments. So you should see that. It's on district letterhead, and Gene can share that sometime over the next few weeks. Any questions? Just a few minutes from me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Next, we have Matt Herbert from Chase. Matt's going to give us an update on our capital projects. Welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Matt Herbert. I'm the project manager for Chase Construction, working on capital projects with King throughout the district. As you know, as already mentioned, it's been a very busy summer in Fulton, just with the district's work going on and the capital project work. We have the next slide. Currently, we have 3 projects underway, 2 of them in construction and a 3rd being planned. Next slide, please. The final phase of the 2019 project is in its final summer. Everyone is working diligently to make sure that all the teaching spaces can be ready and on day 1. And any work that we have left over will be punch list, minor, done at 2nd shift or off hours, not to affect students and staff. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through each building, just with a little bit of highlights from each building and what we've accomplished in the past month. The unit vents in GRB have been demoed, most have been replaced. Piping for those HVAC units is largely completed, and controls has been largely completed. We're working our way to, again, putting everything back together to make sure that things are ready for school on day one. Next slide. At Granby, we finished up our work with the pool. There's some startup and some balancing that we need to do as a part of those units, but the pool itself is back in the district's hands. We have completed the painting of that ductwork, corridor door abatement, removal, and replacement has been completed, and we're working on some final touch-up paint and flooring that needs to be done in there. Next slide. Lanigan, we replaced the existing boiler. We had to move it out, get the new one in. It was quite a feat. And most of the boiler piping has been completed, and abatement, removal, and reinstallation of a new air handling unit up in the mechanical mezzanine has been completed. Next. Fairgrade, we were able to complete the switchgear replacement, a very big feat. The electrician did great work. They put in a lot of time to make sure that that got completed. We also completed the domestic water piping mains that were part of the project. Fairgrade has been a great school to work with. The principal and the head custodian have dealt with being largely out of power, largely out of water, and been very helpful when we need them. So they've been great to work with. Next slide. The ARP funds HVAC project is a federal funded project where we have separate contracts, separate from the 2019 project, and we are pushing forward again to have our teaching spaces back together so that we won't affect staff or students. Next slide. We had the old rooftop units removed, the curbs removed, and just after the start of this month, August, we had the new units placed on the roof. We are working our way to get the gym put back together, and the two teaching spaces that we are in are looking very good right now, so they'll be back together for school as well. Next slide.
Can I just ask you a quick question, because it is what I've been hearing. I know when we talked with you at previous board meetings, and there was supposed to be some other gym work that was supposed to be done this summer, and there was a reason why it wasn't done, right?
Yes.
Could you share with
so
us?
So that's actually a part of the 2023 project that we have the next slides up coming forward, and they were not approved via SED, so we were not able to move forward with that work. Actually, just this morning, this afternoon, I got an email from Mike that phase of work has been approved by SED, so we can start to work to get things ready, but it will not be done this summer.
Is that the high school?
Yes, GRB.
We're moving forward, was it with the bleachers?
So
One part we do?
There are several contracts of things that we can do on state contract with co-op. And those items, now that they're approved, we can move forward with because we don't need to bid them separately. The items that we need to put out to bid for public bid via Wick's Law, we will not be able to accomplish this summer just because of the time to put documents together, get it together, get the bids together, review the bids, and go over them with the court and get everything approved in time.
Matt, excuse me, just briefly, could you just kind of give us an overview of what that work was that's been held off, will take place in this next summer, just so folks understand? Yeah.
Well, one of them was the gym floor, even though that is on a co-op, it just wasn't going to work for other reasons. It's the speakers in the sound system in the gym and the wall painting and murals that are a part of the new logo.
Thank you.
What are some of the reasons that it wouldn't be approved by SED?
It's not that it wasn't approved, it was that it was being reviewed. It's a very lengthy time frame to be reviewed right now. Can we move to the next slide? Sure. Go for the 23, the next one. might not be able to see it, but at the bottom of this slide here, I have the current SED review times. Architectural review is about 20 weeks and engineering review is 32 weeks. We can't move forward until all of these things are approved. The state will not give you your fund. So we're not allowed to move the project into construction without having engineering review, which is up to 12 weeks behind architectural review.
You mentioned, it just did something about a co-op and it just didn't work. What did, what?
The gym floor being refinished?
Yeah.
Yes. There was an issue with scheduling with the contractor that was supposed to be at this time.
Issue with scheduling?
The phase 1A, so this slide is a little outdated because I gave it to Ms. Perry last week. We just received approval today. Phase 1B we received approval on, and phase 2B or 2 is submitted, and it is still being reviewed. And phase 3 is expected to be set for review in October.
That's right.
And phase 4 will start being designed in October or before, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, your question about SED. We were days away from receiving our architectural review for phase 2, but we could be as much as 4 months away from receiving engineering. And you have to have them both. And then actually this SED project manager signs off. So it's a multi-tier process. And as Matt said, we can't go until we have everyone sign off.
Is the scheduling also through SED, like for the floor? Is that something that we had to wait for through the state? Is that something that was like on our end that we didn't do? Or?
Even though it's co-op, we still have to wait for approval. So, and then once we have approval, it's really King and the Chase managing the schedules and determining when to work it out.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish that work this summer. We were working to schedule the contractor to nail them down, but as Mike and I looked at what the SED timeframes were going to be, the amount of time that gym would have needed to be offline, it wouldn't have worked with the district. It would have severely affected your classes. It's not a in and out one day type of work.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions?
So is this something that will then be done the following summer?
Yes.
Okay, because I had heard at one point, I thought the fall, but that's just good to know it'll be the following summer that all that stuff gets finished.
Yeah, so especially the gym floor, that is going to next summer now.
So, thank you.
At Lanigan, where you put in the boiler, you took out part of the wall, and now it's all boarded up. A vent is going to be installed in there, right?
Yes.
Is that scheduled to be done before school starts?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm tired of looking at it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, we have our Director of Early Childhood Education, Ms. Kelly Gates, for our UPK update.
Hi, good evening. I do want to just take a moment to point out 2 almost appointed early childhood rock stars here that I was able to meet about a month ago and be part of their process. So I'm excited that they're here. People don't often come when they're going to be appointed, so I think it's awesome and speaks highly of both of you and your dedication to our district. Thank you for being.
Can you let us know who you have with you?
Sure. So Madison is going to be teaching kindergarten at Fairgrave, and Sophie is going to be teaching 2nd grade at Lanigan.
Thank you.
So good evening. My name is Kelly Gates, and I have the honor of being the Director of Early Childhood Education for the Fulton City School District. Tonight I will be sharing our final report from this past school year and then talking about the next school year, which begins in September. You go to the next slide. So Universal Pre-K has been a part of the Fulton City School District since 1998. In the beginning, these classrooms were in our community, half-day programs. And since 1998, we have slowly moved them into our buildings and also moved from mostly half-day to now mostly full-day programs. Universal Universal Pre-K is fully funded by New York State, and that offers families the opportunity to have free, high-quality early learning for their little ones. This funding provides our district the ability to directly implement pre-K programming aligned with the New York State learning standards. Children who are eligible are those who will turn 4 on or before December 1st of the school year. The district provides the oversight of the program as we receive the funding. Our community partners are key to our ability to provide these classrooms. Next slide. Our Universal Pre-K program is directly aligned to our kindergarten programs. We utilize core knowledge language arts, CKLA, Eureka for math, and Second Step for social emotional learning. All of our classroom teachers do assessments and monitor using Brigance and report cards. The maximum class size that New York State would allow us to have is 20 students. If we had 19 or 20 students, we would need 1 teacher and 2 paraprofessionals. For 18, we have 1 teacher and 1 paraprofessional. Of note, last year we did have 20 students in our full-day UPK classrooms. We found that it wasn't feasible to have that many students. So this year we have kept all of our classes to 18 students. All of the UPK students have access to the same health services as our K-12 students. They have access to the student support services in our buildings. Special education services for preschoolers are funded through the county. And all of our UPK staff receive professional development through our district. These are the numbers from the school year that just finished. We had a total of 151 UPK students. We had 3 half-day classes and 5 full-day classes. The year prior to this school year, we had started with 2 full-day classrooms, and then all of the other ones were half-day. So we have gradually built the number of full-day classrooms, and that really has been out of need from families and wanting to have their students in our buildings all day and having access to breakfast, lunch, transportation to and from school, and they also are able to enjoy our special areas by being in our buildings.
Are half-day students transported as well to and from?
Yes, yes they are. They have like a special run in the middle of the day.
Okay.
So our community partners this past school year, First Step Pre-K, which is located at Volney, YMCA staffs the classrooms at Lanigan. Oswego County Opportunities Head Start staffs a classroom at Fairgrave. Little Luke's staffs a classroom at Granby. And then this past school year, we implemented a special class integrated setting, Universal Pre-K, so students with significant special needs could be a part of our UPK program in our building. And the special education services are through a partnership with Milestones. And those are at Granby. Next slide. This is from the end of the year UPK family input. And this slide is showing you the amount of communication that was received from a family, from their teacher. The picture is from our kindergarten transition link. Smiling faces. So as you can see, communication, families have been happy with the communication they're receiving from classroom teachers. Next slide. The goal of our UPK program is to promote the little ones' development of readiness skills to really prepare them for kindergarten in all areas, including reading, writing, math, speaking, listening, and also those social skills. So families were asked to indicate if their child had improved in these areas. So the blue is indicating yes, and the red is indicating no. So overall, families did feel as if their child did improve in all areas. On the UPK end of the year survey, we asked families to kind of give highlights of the school year. So I did just put some of them in here. I think some of the ones that really warm my heart are playing with friends, confidence growing, learning to write their name, loving their teachers, being a part of field trips, being a part of school-wide events. All of our elementary buildings have embraced our UPK students, and it really has become pre-K to 6 buildings, which has been awesome. Next slide. So before I show you the exciting slide, I do want to say that prior to this school year, we received an allocation from New York State. And that allocation really was remaining at a pretty stagnant amount until 2 years ago when they gave a little bit more funding to let us have full-day UPKs. So this school year, we really talked a lot about we want to expand the program. We want to be able to serve all of the children who are eligible for UPK with our district overseeing that program. So New York State did come out with an expansion grant. You can move to the next one. So we spent a lot of time putting together a grant application, my first one ever.
You did great.
What?
You did great.
I know, 1 for 1.
That's right, that's right.
So we spent a lot of time. I spent time with Jerry Geithner and Mr. Polvino and Mr. Lisi and Kate, really putting together our proposal. And this was a competitive grant, so not everybody that applied for it was awarded it. We were awarded this along with 63 other school districts across our state. And this was awarded based on our plan to serve the community's highest need schools and students, to increase our level of pre-K students. And really the why behind this is we have approximately 220 students in kindergarten. Typically we have around 150 students in our UPK program. So we are really looking to have that entire cohort be a part of our UPK program so that we have them for that year ahead of kindergarten. It's very important that we all know that our community partnerships are the only way that we can do this. Our partnerships with all of the community-based organizations are key to us being able to expand. We do not have the ability to fund this and have district staff teach all of these classrooms. So we really need our partnerships with all of the community-based organizations in order to do this. I know at first when they heard about this, they were like, oh no, and I said, oh, do not worry. We need all of you plus more. So they are all on board. They are happy to help out in any way that they can. They offer space, they have staff. So our goal is really over the next few years to have that whole cohort engaging in high quality early childhood education in our buildings and also off-site, because we also know we do not have capacity to have 220 of them in our 4 buildings. Next slide. The main reason I think that many of us were really looking to expand is because we have been seeing many little ones coming to kindergarten having not been in UPK and not attending any other preschool program in our community. And really the impact that that has on a little one, if you've had UPK, if you've had a preschool setting and then you come into kindergarten, it just sets them up for success. So we really wanted to reach all of the students that are eligible for UPK in our community. So this is the current look for this school year. And I will say that we are very close to full. We have about 145 registered students currently. At Fairgrave, we will have 2 full-day classrooms. One is staffed with Head Start staff. The other classroom will be our first district teacher. So I look at it as partnering with Fairgrave Elementary principal. She's our next partner. At Granby, we have a full-day classroom with Little Luke's, and then we are continuing our full-day special class integrated setting UPK, which is a partnership with Little Luke's and Milestones. 2 full-day classrooms at Lanigan that are staffed by the YMCA. 2 full-day classrooms at Volney, which are staffed by First Step Pre-K, and then we are going to have an off-site half-day morning classroom. There is still a need from our community for a half-day program for those families that just want their student to go for 2.5 hours. There will be busing to that classroom at the YMCA. And then as we continue to expand, we would be looking to add a full day off-site if we have the numbers to support that classroom.
Would that be at the Y as well?
That would be at the Y as well, yes. This is comparing the prior school year to this school year to really show the growth in our program. So moving from the 5 full days to now 8. And then it is listing out our community partners with the addition of partnering with the district for 1 classroom. The locations, adding the off-site. And then it's also showing you the allocation, which is all that we had for funding last school year, and then the allocation plus the expansion grant for this school year. It's important to note that in order for us to get the total funding, we have to have 200 or more students. So those numbers are always dependent on the number of students that we have. And then the additional support, last year we had a UPK facilitator, and we partnered with Pemberton to offer fine motor support in all of our classrooms with a occupational therapist. This school year, we have added a district speech language pathologist, which is fully funded by the county. We also have a district instructional coach and facilitator, the district teacher and aide, and then Pemberton will continue the OT modules. I'm continuing to look into pursuing the special education into internet teacher piece. So we're really building up our program for early learners. And then it has the enrollment is at the bottom. Next slide. So as I said previously, we really can only do this with our partnerships. We have to be a team in our community in order to provide what early learners need. And I really want to thank all of you for your support of the early learners, the superintendent's team, the director's team, all of the elementary principals that really support these UPK students in their buildings. You would think that it would be easy, right, to just change from half day to full, but it is truly not. When you have a 4-year-old for 2.5 hours and now you have them for 6.5, it adds a lot to a building. So I really appreciate the work the elementary principals and their teams have put into making this work. I also think registration has been huge. I know that Diane watches these, so I'm going to give her a shout out for all of her work. And then the business office, of course, for making sure my numbers are correct. So I'm excited about the future and us expanding and continuing to partner with our community partners. Any questions?
Thank you for the information. Looking forward to next year, not always full day classes. I hope that you get the numbers for the on-site full day. That would be very good.
I definitely think it's possible. There's a lot of little ones out there, it's just finding them and making sure they have the information. And I definitely am one that goes out into the community and visits and talks with people. So I think it's a few-year process, I think, to really reach that whole cohort, but it is possible.
Are we still getting books into the hands of parents and babies? I know that was one of the things we talked about at one point, getting them right when they come out.
Yes, so actually, Tim, I'm glad that you said that, because I didn't want to forget about the Oswego County Early Childhood Alliance. They have a new initiative called Help Me Grow. And through that process, it is building a system for families to really get the supports they need, including books, including diapers, food, access to evaluations for children if they're needed. So this isn't just Fulton City School District, really thinking about the littles, it's the whole county. And it's exciting to be a part of that, as a district and how we can support the whole county. Because we know they're all of our kids, they move around and, we all need to be in it. So I have something from Help Me Grow, so thanks, Tim, I didn't plan that.
We talk enough, I hear everything going on. This is one of my mother's favorite subjects, so.
If you want to pass this down, this is just information on Help Me Grow. There's a
You got it. Yeah. I guess it's probably easier to name it.
So Help Me Grow was launched in May, and they currently are partnering with pediatricians throughout the county to ensure that kids birth to 5 receive what they need and also their families. So yes, books in their hands and access to Imagination Library, for sure.
Thank you, Kelly. I just want to take a moment to recognize the work that Kelly's done. She's grown this program tremendously, and it can't be overstated what the impact is likely to be on our youngest learners. So thank you so much, Kelly, for all the work. And the grant, she did a ton of work on that, and to get that grant was very impressive. So again, thank you so much. Your work led directly to growing this program and where it's likely to go in the next few years. So.
Well, you're welcome. I think I love it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in it.
Clearly. Yeah. And I also want to welcome our newest staff. You're joining one outstanding program, and we're happy to have you with us. So, welcome.
Well, I didn't realize I'd get an extra shout out. Right?
Yeah, why not?
All right, thank you all.
I only get this once a year, so we're going to thank everybody here. So next, the reorganization update, just to give you a brief update of where we are. Tim Wilson is working with those staff that are going to be directly affected, so we're starting to schedule what those moves might look like and all the work involved in that. So Tim's on that, and we're just waiting for a finalized schedule for when we can actually start that process. And again, the conversations are continuing with the bigger picture. So first moves and what we're focused on at this point anyway is the administrative moves that we've already talked about. So our goal is to begin those as quickly as we can in September and move forward with that part of the process. So also our new educator orientation is Wednesday, August 21st at 7:45 a.m. at GRB cafeteria. That's it for the superintendent's report.
Is that also the day that we are collecting for the stuff of us, the 21st?
I believe it is.
The 21st, is that also the day we're collecting for the stuff of us over at the Overhead Point?
Yes. I think so, yeah.
Is it right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's the first collection, there's the distribution, and then.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lacy.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to move on to our finance action 4.01, accept financials.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. Action 4.02, approve disposal of surplus property.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 7-0-0. Action 4.03, approve the award bid for the kitchen equipment.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. New business, action 5.01, approve committee on special education.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 5.02, approve the district-wide safety plan.
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. For our personnel, would my colleagues like to batch 6.01 to 6.22?
Move it.
Second.
Is that Lori or Fallon second? Who was second?
Doesn't matter.
Lori? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Board forum. I'm going to start with Mrs. Hutchinson.
I just wanted to say thank you to our community members that spoke tonight, and thank you for everybody who gave us updates on the capital improvement and the capital projects, and Mrs. Gates for the UPK. Short and sweet tonight. That's it for me.
Oh. Mr. Crandall.
I just want to thank Ms. Gates for everything. She always does a very good job. And our new employees and updates from King and King and the Chase and everybody, and that's it. And a shout out to Mr. Lisi for the excellent job he's done tonight.
My pleasure. It's easy to say next.
I too would like to thank all the people that attended tonight and gave their opinion and gave us all the updates. I think they did a great job, and I appreciate that.
Ms. Manga?
Everything my colleagues have said, and a special shout out to Kelly. I once applied for a grant. I understand how much work goes into that. It's a ton. So congratulations on receiving that. That's quite the accomplishment. And welcome aboard to Fulton, and good luck in the upcoming year. Glad to have you.
That's it. Mr. DiGiorno?
Just a shout out to King and King and the Chase for the updates on the capital projects, and Mrs. Gates for her team. It can't be easy coordinating all those people and all those buildings. So, thank you.
Mr. Connors?
I'd really like to thank everyone who presented tonight. I thought the content was presented clearly. I was able to understand it, which isn't always the case for me. So even though there's those slides, when people do a great presentation, I don't have that many questions. So thank you for that. And I'm going to do a special shout out for Mrs. Gates because, she sat next to me when we did our board thing at the law conference. So she took care of me, making sure I understood everything going on. So from kindergarten all the way up to 29 years old, she's taking care of us in our community.
Wow, that's awesome.
I even got you food.
Mrs. Hutchinson did check on him.
I did offer.
Takes a village to raise me.
Yeah.
Yes, that was nice that we, many of us got to go to our law conference, which was on August 1st. So we got to learn a lot of the new upcoming things that we need to be looking out to make sure we're keeping the district running and our students safe and all of those things that come along with it. So that was a wonderful event as well. I also want to just touch base a little bit for those of my colleagues who were at the retreat. If you were not able, we talked about putting together a Board of Ed handbook. Heather Zeller, who was our facilitator, she did send me a copy from her district, Seneca Falls, to look at. We also can look at some other districts. It's something that a lot of districts are starting to put into place so that maybe those of us who won't be here forever, Mr. Crandall, we might be able to pass that on to our future friends coming in who want to join us. Well, you are our longest standing board member. You've seen it all, right? And I also was thinking, and it was nice to hear from Mr. DeJalorme, that it would be wonderful to put into that handbook as well, something for our student board members as well, especially the expectations that we want from our senior and our junior in waiting. So that might be something that we start to talk about. So think about some things you might want to add in there, and think about next meeting. I'm going to ask for people who want to be on the ad hoc committee. We can put 3 members on the team to start kind of talking about things, and then you guys can bring it back to whoever's on it, can bring it back to the rest of the board members. It'll be a work in progress, and it's something from my understanding that it's a living document. We can change it as we need it, but it might just be something nice to have in place. I know that Mr. Palvino goes over things with our new members and hands out information, and we kind of talk about it at orientation, but you know, for those of us who have been on, it's always nice to be able to go back and relook at something or revisit something. So if you're interested in doing the ad hoc committee, it's something that we should probably maybe start thinking about in the fall or late fall to kind of get started on, and just kind of go from there. So with that, for all of our people out there, our teachers who are resting, hopefully our summer school staff will be able to get some rest by the end of the week. Summer is, I don't want to say it, is coming closer to an end than we would probably want it to be, but it'll be nice to see the buildings when we walk through, for our teachers to get rest, for our students to be ready to come back into the classroom, to get all of our littles in place. So it will be nice to be getting ready for the start of the year. With that said, we could move into our second public forum if there is anybody who is interested in talking to us. Going once, twice, Mr. Castilla.
You don't want to say anything.
No? They don't want me to say anything.
We love hearing from you, Frank.
Absolutely.
Quick, gotta be quick.
Okay.
Don't take my time. One, I would suggest, please, that we put portable microphones. Brenda, we could hear perfectly. Okay. The rest of you guys, you know, speak softly, speak kindly, and a lot of times it's hard to hear back here. And that's just because I'm old, but I'm sure that there's people that didn't hear it. I would suggest putting some portable microphones.
Thank you for bringing it to our
I
attention.
believe they're on order.
Okay, all right. Second, ARPA funds. I believe the understanding that I have is they have to be spent by 2026. And I asked the gentleman if he was going to be done with his projects by then. He said he's going to be done, you know, in the summer. So I just, you know, throw that out there so we can make sure, you know, keep him going so that he gets going there. Third and final, the young lady here brought up a very important point about early childhood education and how important it is. And what you have to keep that in mind, that goes the same thing for the special needs students. Okay, now, everybody's gonna say, they're gonna point at the admin, that it's their fault, and they're the ones that, you know, but it's not. They can ask, Mark can ask for their son, is he gonna get it? Only if you guys vote for it. Mr. Lisi can ask for anything, is he gonna get it? Only if you guys vote for it. So you guys have to keep that in mind. You guys are the ones that everybody will be looking at to say, who do I blame for my student losing a year of his life because we moved him someplace else? And I just, you know, I just think you guys have to keep that in mind. And you guys, you got 20 years, each one of you in the education field, except for Tim. Timmy's got 29 years in it.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I've lived it.
You're right. You know, just keep that in mind. What the students, the effect of these students is going to be. That's all I'm asking. That's all that parent is asking. And that's what all the other parents are asking. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Gene, how did I run my time?
You still got 42 seconds.
42 seconds?
You don't have to use them up.
Oh, okay.
Not required.
I don't want to waste them, okay? So, you know, thank you very much for your time. I just, 90% of what you guys do is very good. But then there's the 10% that people will say, you can do 1,000 things perfect. You do the one wrong thing, and what are they going to say to you? you're gonna save up that amount of thing. Everybody knows that. So I'm just asking you, put this one in with 1,000 good things. Thank you very much, have your time.
Thank you, Frank.
Come again next week.
Next week?
Go ahead.
All right, would there, anybody else like to speak on behalf of, going once, twice? All right, we're gonna move on to action 8.01, adjournment.
Move it.
Second. Is that done? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, passes 700, not the time. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone have a great evening.
Mr. Calvino's out there watching. I hope you're enjoying vacation and enjoy a lobster for each and every one of
He
us.
shouldn't be watching, he should be.